What's such boy for another reaction, and in today's video we have the most unique dumpster fire in NFL history by Isaac Punts. Shall I come subscribe and listen to it?
So
Isaac Punts, he got some good videos. I've seen this shit before.
the NFL season is fully in the rear view. The Seahawks were able to pull off an absolutely crushing victory over
That nigga got that dead body, that white dead body.
the Patriots. But there's one team that's just still eating at the back of my mind. A team who's so uniquely bad in such a special way that I don't think I'm ever going to be able to stop thinking about them. They might be one of the weirdest disasters we have seen in a pretty long time.
Nigga, if the Jets win a Super Bowl, my nigga, I wouldn't be mad at fans for never shutting up. Like, nigga, I would never shut up as a Jets fan, my nigga. Holy shit, if they won a Super Bowl. Like, I was a Jets fan, bro. I would talk so much shit.
Time. That team, of course, I'm talking about is the 2025 New York Jets. But of course,
Like, bro, these niggas was never good, bro. Y'all best quarterback was Alex Sanchez, my nigga.
to get a good understanding of why they're so unique in their badness.
But ain't they won a Super Bowl, though, before? In, like, 1950? Hold on. Them niggas won a Super Bowl, like, whoever won one Super Bowl, 1969 game. Holy shit. Joe Namath, that's the greatest quarterback. Joe Namath.
We're going to have to go back. But do you know what I like to do? The first thing we have to do when we're looking at something like this is we've got to have just some baseline to compare it to, because there's been plenty of disasters. So what makes the Jets so special? Well, let's look at probably one of the most notable recent disasters in NFL history, which is, of course, the 2017 Cleveland Browns. Now, what makes them so...
Bro, you know how insane it is to go 0-17 game? Like, y'all niggas some BJ for real.
Special is that the previous year they were also one of the biggest disasters in the NFL, but that 2017 year was their magnum opus of sucking. And yeah, we can talk about how their offense was like one of the worst in the league. I mean, you had Deshaun Kaiser trying his best this year, but would throw twice the number of interceptions that he would touchdowns and put up some of the most insane stat lines you'd ever see. Check this one out, okay? 31 attempts, 15 completions, 182 yards, but no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions to get a whopping 7.2 quarterback rating. And that wasn't even his lowest. Against the Jaguars, he would get sacked 5 times, throw 2 picks, and complete only 50% of his passes to eke out.
Nigga the linebackers was eating on his stupid ass.
A whopping 5.9 quarterback rating. And fun fact, spiking the ball, yes, throwing it directly at the ground, has a higher QBR than what Kaiser did in 60 minutes of play. On top of that,
Bro, what?
their star power for the Browns was a little low, to say the least. You had Isaiah Crowell as their RB1, but at least they did have Higgins and Coleman catching for them, so that's some studs, right? Well, that's not T. Higgins and Keon Coleman. They had Corey Coleman and Rashad Higgins, and their rankings in each offensive category was as follows: 32 overall in points scored, 32 overall in turnovers given away, 32 overall in interceptions thrown, as well as...
Like, gang, these niggas lost to the Jets game, like, both BJ teams. Like, what the fuck?
30th over.
I'm sorry, gang. I think the best college football team beating these niggas. Come on. Nigga, I think 2020, like, bro, come on. Nigga, I think 2019 LSU beating on these niggas. Like, come on, for real.
All for net yards per attempt. I mean, we're talking about 2016 Golden State Warriors, but the inverse. And now, having a bad offense is one thing, but there will always be teams with bad offenses. What makes them so special is that from the top rope, after watching the bottom of the barrel, historically bad offense, you get to see your defense come in and finish the job with the old 1-2 punch of atrocity, as they would have the 31st worst defense in the league, who would have feats like being the absolute worst in creating turnovers to offset their offense's turnover creation. They were the bottom 10 in passing touchdowns, bottom 8 in rushing touchdowns, and while yards allowed might seem like a positive for them, don't forget that their offense was giving away the ball like it physically disgusted them, meaning that opposing teams did actually not have a long way to go to score, so they didn't have a great chance to get a ton of yards. But in tandem, these two weren't only not good, but it seemed like any time one of the sides of the ball would get going...
But y'all niggas could have won not one game, though. Okay, look, 17-14. The New York Jets barely beat them niggas.
and have a decent
Like
day,
y'all couldn't
the
win not
other
one
would
game.
absolutely down their leg. Like, oh look, our offense finally had a
Man, they went to overtime with Green Bay.
decent game, putting up 24 points against the Lions. Well, our defense is going to give up 38 points to make sure it never feels close. Oh, the defense held the Titans to just 9 points in regulation. Well, our offense is only going to be able to get to overtime with 3 field goals and then put up a whopping negative 10 yards in overtime, where we'd lose on a field goal. And of course, when we go on to the third phase of the game, it also wasn't great. Despite having Zane Gonzalez and Dustin Colquitt, who were more than capable of being solid, typically when a team is this bad, it shows a level of organizational dysfunction where nothing can hope to succeed. I mean, they allowed an average of 30 return yards on punts per game, which would be bottom of the league. They allowed 85 yards on kickoff returns per game, which, given the fact that they barely scored due to how bad their offense was, is a pretty bad rate. And even though, yes, I am deep diving.
Nah, chill, son. Shador gonna turn over the franchise. You know, you bust on my AP. Perfect timing.
On one of the worst teams of all time, this is the case for many disaster teams. I mean, if we just look through the 3 other disasters this year, we have the Raiders, who had the worst offense and barely put up as many yards as some quarterbacks would throw by themselves in a season, while their defense was all right, but down years from their kicker and punter, and especially their long snapper, spurred them to middling results across the board in special teams. This is, as far as I know, just a fact of having a bad year. It tends to rattle the entire organization, and even if individual specialist performances can bring up one portion of their team's success, typically through giving up big returns and allowing punts to be blocked, all sorts of disasters can happen. You just don't see teams have great special teams years when everything else sucks. At least that's what I would have said before this year, but now that we've got that pretty long-winded background established, let me go ahead and introduce you to the protagonist and I guess also the antagonist of this story, the 2025 New York Jets. Because while they do technically have the second overall pick, they're not really worse than the Raiders at all by any stretch of the imagination. They were one of the few teams who were in the bottom 3 in both offense and defense this year as far as points were concerned, as well.
Y'all see how that nigga Justin Fields was good for that one game, my nigga, against the Steelers. Holy, we thought this nigga thought this nigga was like back or something. Like, oh, he was about to prove that the head is wrong, the doubt is wrong.
As being 29th in yards gained and 25th in yards allowed, meaning there wasn't even a part where they were just sneakily better than they appeared on paper. They were also 32nd overall in forced turnover, with their claim to fame being that for the first time in modern NFL and maybe just all of NFL history, they went a historic 17 games with 515 passes thrown against them without managing to pick off a single one of them. Now, that's not just impressive.
Oh, yeah, I seen they didn't get a single interception, gang. That is insane. NFL history, the only team that never recorded a single interception on defense, bro.
Because of how bad it is, but because of how improbable it was. That means no tipped passes at the line of scrimmage to bump to a linebacker, no egregious drops by wide receivers right into the defender's hands, no crappy pass attempts by quarterbacks like we saw in the Super Bowl for the Patriots. It shows that in a lot more ways.
Damn, so everybody that played these niggas just play, every quarterback that played them just played a perfect game.
The defense was failing to impact the game outside of interceptions. They couldn't force bad throws. They weren't getting into receivers' heads. They weren't tipping balls at the line of scrimmage or creating meaningful pressures or hard to pick apart coverages. And their offense was also not pressuring opposing offenses. No one was afraid of a team who was as likely to throw a pick as they were a touchdown. And while their ground game wasn't...
And the only nigga I know on the Jets defense is Malachi Moore. I'm pretty sure for Alabama. I'm pretty sure he played for the Jets. I remember, ain't he with the Alabama? I remember him. I'm pretty sure he played for the Jets. Malachi. Yeah, he played for the Jets. Yeah, I remember this nigga from Alabama. Yeah, he played for the Jets. He played defense, right? Yeah. Defense back, yeah.
Half bad, you just need to have a decent passing game in the modern NFL. But what was so different about this team is that their special teams was not bad. Their special teams wasn't even like middle of the pack. It wasn't even good. They might have just had one of the most dominant special teams years top to bottom, of all time. But
Yeah, for real?
numbers will never do this justice. To really get how just gritty and intense and clutch that this unit was, we have to watch the games. Now, their first game of the season was one of their best overall games. Justin Fields looked solid, which isn't something you'll hear me say for the rest of the video, but a lesser-spoken bright spot was their rookie punter, Austin McNamara, averaging and netting 47 yards a punt, including a clutch 55-yarder in the fourth quarter, forcing Chris Boswell to have to connect on a 60-yard field goal if they wanted to win, which they did. But they also would have 60 more total return yards than the Steelers, and even their veteran Nick Folk had a solid performance, going 2 for 2 and connecting from 51. But it wasn't until the next week that we would see how they handled a total meltdown from
So bro basically saying the special teams was the
5-yard
best thing
per
about
kickoff
the
return.
Jets.
But what would happen?
Nigga said the special teams was the best thing about the Jets last season.
The following game is what would put their situation front and center on everybody's attention. It was a grindy game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Despite giving up a massive 17-point second quarter, the Jets...
But would we ever seen a team go like not win a single game? I don't think that would ever happen though, because I think these players is talented as hell. I feel like the league is very talented. I don't think that'll ever happen.
were trying their best to stay in it, and by God...
But you don't know.
Although it felt entirely out of reach, they would score back-to-back touchdowns to stay in the fourth. But down 6, the Buccaneers could line up for what would be a game-clinching field goal attempt that would put them up by 9 points and effectively win the game. As we can see it reflected where, at this point, they had the legendary 99.9% shot to surefire lose this game. But the Jets special teams had something to say about it. They get through the line, block the kick, scoop and score it to what should have been win this game, and the amazement of everybody in the stands. I mean, jumping from the pits of hell chances of win to now suddenly being in the driver's seat is insane, but of course, this video wouldn't be as impressive if they just won these games. Their defense needing a single stop in 1 minute and 49 seconds let Baker Mayfield and crew drive the entire length of the field to kick another field goal and win the game, letting this amazing, fantastical performance go to waste. But amazingly, the Jets special teams just kept getting better. They averaged 33 yards a return against the Dolphins, while Folk once again connected on...
Damn, who the fuck is the punt returner? Who is the return man?
A massive 58-yard field goal to stay perfect on the year. They managed to also get another good-sized punt return to break up an otherwise perfect Jake Bailey game. And against the Cowboys, they put up almost 200 yards of returns, including 40 yards coming off of punt returns, to the Cowboys' total of 43 yards from their return units. But our next big special teams game came against the about-to-be-in the Super Bowl Broncos. You now see the Broncos had completely shut down the Jets' offense. They scored 0 touchdowns, but despite that, their special teams would carry them like you never see. 3 field goals from Nick Folk were on those field goal drives. They
Damn, bro.
only put up a total
Nick Folk, the best nigga on the Jets?
of 41 offensive yards thanks to a fumble and a 72-yard kickoff return. Are you kidding me? But that was just 9 of their 11 points. The other 2 came off of a safety thanks to their punter, Austin McNamara, pinning the Broncos at the 3, where a holding call of all things in the end zone would be what gives up the safety, as Austin also was balling that day. 7 punts, only 11 return yards, while averaging over 50 yards a punt. And their return game, of course, held the Broncos to...
Yeah, nigga. Pay that nigga the most money. And that Nick Folk nigga.
Just netting 40 yards a punt. Now, this wasn't enough to win them the game, though, as the Broncos were able to hold on with 13 points to win. And while once again their special teams would be their only source of points against the Panthers with 2 field goals, they really turned the tables against the Bengals. In a close shootout game down by 14, the Jets were able...
Shit, nigga, that's how that Super Bowl was looking, nigga. I thought the kicker was about to win the MVP.
to turn a Bengals touchdown into their favor by getting a huge 37-yard return to start them at the 40, allowing for much higher odds of scoring. Then they followed that up after forcing a punt by returning that punt 21 yards to start them right outside the 50, once again greatly increasing their odds of scoring as they pull out a miraculous win from the jaws of defeat. But it was against the Browns that they got their shining moment. I mean, across the board, they were dominating on special teams. They had a punt return touchdown, a kick return touchdown. They put up more return.
Bro, this is one of the greatest special teams I ever seen, bro. Like, what?
Yards than total offensive yards, and McNamara held them to just 15 total punt return yards while pinning them at the 5 and the 10 in all of that. This spurred them to a miraculous 2-game win streak before they would slip back into mediocrity, because creating electric plays like this on special teams is incredibly hard. But every game, they're still out returning, out kicking, out punting their opposition just to be let down by offense and defense until week 13. Falcons would come into town. Their special teams gets to do something special. It's not just that AMAC was playing a perfect game, averaging almost 50 yards a punt while holding them to -1 return yards while forcing a muff punt to set them at the 2. It's not just that they had exactly one opportunity to return a kickoff and took it 83 yards, where they still had to settle for a field goal, which Nick Folk made. But at the end of the game, they once again have a chance to return a punt and are able to take it back 16 yards to midfield, where on only a 19-yard drive, all they could muster up was to give Nick Folk a chance at his second game-winning 55-yard field goal attempt.
Bro, get his Nick Folk, nigga, a max contract, gang. Nigga scoring more points than they quarterback, gang.
And he drills it. And I cannot put into word how bad the Jets.
Why this nigga Tyrod Taylor still in the NFL? This nigga obviously ain't good as a starter. Like,
would lose these games if their special teams was just average, but at every moment the most clutch plays they would come up and deliver. And the rest of their season had plenty of high moments. Against the Dolphins, they would only score off of a field goal and a punt return
I need a Nick Folk jersey, gang.
Touchdown. The Jaguars straight up didn't let them return a single kick while walloping them 48-20, and the Saints were once again
What happened to Brian Thomas? Why that nigga fell off this season?
and able to hold them to just 2 field goals while routing the rest of their team. And their season ended with 2 games almost void of special teams plays at all, gutting this team of their best weapons. But across their 17-game season, their special teams pretty much solo carried them to 3 wins. They scored 21 of their 27 points against the Browns on special teams. 100% of the points in 4 separate games were scored on special teams. They had more return yards than...
Yeah, Baltimore Ravens, y'all need to go after this Nick Folk nigga. Y'all need to get him.
rushing yards on the season, and the game against the Buccaneers will always haunt me because they should have won it there too. But you don't understand. This was not just another good year. I mean, sure, they had some all-pros like, their punter, Austin McNamara, who for his rookie campaign netted 43.2 yards per punt, which is a little bit insane. And sure, their kicker, Nick Folk, had the best season of his entire career, only missing 1 kick, going 28 for 29. That's 96.2% of his kicks, and having a boatload from 50 to 55 plus. Don't get me wrong, that's pretty good. And yeah, they're all-pro returner, return punts for over 1,200 yards this year. Whoop-de-doo, and he got 2 touchdowns. That's all nice. But to really put this in perspective, we're going to look at something called DVOA. That is defensive value over average. Pretty much, how does this team do in their situations compared to every other team in that same situation? And that is where things get a little crazy. Because yes, they had the best DVOA of all the special teams units this year. That should be a given. But what's even more impressive is that they have the 5th best DVOA of all time. And to really understand how crazy this is, I had to go look at what the other 4 teams did with a higher DVOA. So the team who was at number 1 was the Saints in 1987, and they went 12-3. So obviously they were able to have a pretty good record, but overall they were probably just a pretty good team. Ironically, the one at number 2 was still the Saints in 2002, who were worse than the 1987 iteration of themselves, but still did go 9-7. Then at number 3, we've got the 1985 Rams, who went 11-5.
Dang, is that nigga barefoot, gang? What?
Go 9-7. Then at number
Bro,
3, we've got the
fuck?
1985 Rams, who went 11-5, the 2007 Bears, who did technically finish with a losing record, but you get to see that even being up this high, you can still change the outcome of some games. So for every team with a higher DVOA, they were able to put together a significantly higher percentage of wins than the Jets were able to, which is why I think that they are such a unique disaster, because even though they weren't 32nd and 32nd in offense and defense, they had an all-time.
Well, the Jets genuinely got I guess, a bright future. The second overall pick, these niggas got about like 4 first-round picks from that Sauce Gardner trade. If they picks end up being good, they got a good future, bro. Ain't gonna lie.
Great special teams unit, but somehow managed to just
This year, who they should pick with that second pick? This year, go with wide receiver or defense, get Caleb Downs or something. And then next year, get Trinidad Campbell's or Darian Minter quarterback.
undercut them at every turn to keep them at just 3.
I don't know why that Trinidad Campbell's nigga don't want to go to the NFL. That nigga dodging the Jets. You probably gonna still end up that game. Let's keep it up.
3-12, where every other team apparently was able to drag them to at least a respectable record. So that is why the Jets will forever be in my heart for one of the worst, craziest years I think I've ever witnessed.
Alright. Make sure my comments subscribe and all do shit. It was crazy as fuck. Like, niggas had one of the greatest special team seasons ever.